Thank you. Thank you very much, Salma. It's a pleasure to be here with you, as well as, of course, John McKay. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, as well as the traditional lands of the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. Thank you to Mayor Tory, to Deputy Mayor Bailão, and Councillor Crawford for your work on this initiative. Current events during the COVID-19 pandemic have reminded us of the importance of having a place to call home. Canadians, as they've been fighting the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, have used their homes as the place of refuge and a place to secure themselves from this terrible virus. In these challenging times, our government has acted very quickly to ensure that this place called home is protected. Notre gouvernement a agi rapidement face à ces défis sans précédent de protéger tous les Canadiens, y compris les plus vulnérables. We immediately mobilized to put more money in the pockets of Canadian families so that they can pay their rent, and we deferred mortgages. We also increased the Canada Child Benefit, and we introduced programs like the Canada Emergency Response Benefit to ensure that Canadians can replace their lost employment income due to the pandemic. I'm proud here to stand with my colleagues Salma Zahid and John McKay, members of Parliament, and proud members of the Scarborough Caucus, to have partnered with the City of Toronto to help build these modular homes in the City of Toronto. Modular homes are fast and they're cost-effective. In these trying times, they're one of the best solutions for building affordable housing for those in need. Through the Affordable Housing Innovation Fund, our government, the Government of Canada, has provided $8.25 million to bring this initial phase of modular housing to the City of Toronto. With these modular housing units, more people will be housed comfortably and affordably. More rapid housing is needed, such as this one. I also want to take an opportunity again to recognize the important work of the Scarborough Liberal Caucus members whose tireless efforts have resulted in this project becoming a reality right here in Scarborough. Thank you. I can tell you, Mayor, that there are no greater advocates in this city than the Scarborough members of Parliament, and I'm sure that they're constantly calling you for more affordable housing for Scarborough. And there is more to come. In September, 2 days before the throne speech, we announced a $1 billion rapid housing initiative that will cover the construction of modular housing, as well as allow municipalities like the City of Toronto to acquire properties and convert them quickly into housing and house the most vulnerable in our communities, and create over 3,000 affordable housing units across the country. We've been working very closely with municipalities like the City of Toronto and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, as well as Indigenous government bodies and non-profits, to get this funding into the hands of those who need it as quickly as possible so that we can address this need. And the Rapid Housing Initiative is part of the National Housing Strategy, a 10-year, $55 billion strategy to ensure that each and every Canadian can call their home affordable and safe. We will use that strategy to also fuel the economy and give more Canadians a place to call home. I'm excited to say that we have more news, of course, coming on the Rapid Housing Initiative very soon. Mayor Tory, Deputy Mayor Anna Bailão, and Councillor Crawford, I look forward to being able to share this good news with you very, very shortly. We need rapid housing now, and the Government of Canada will deliver on this promise. Stay tuned. Thank you again for the partnerships that we've been able to build that have resulted in these kinds of projects right across the country and the City of Toronto. And also a big congratulations to the future residents of this neighborhood, who will soon have a place to call home that both meets their needs and is affordable to them. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister. Your advocacy for housing will go a long way here in Scarborough and in Canada. Projects like these would not have been possible without the advocacy of the City of Toronto. I would now like to welcome John Tory, 65th Mayor of Toronto. Born and raised in Toronto, Mayor Tory has spent his life giving back to the city he loves through his tireless work in public, private sector and philanthropic roles. Elected as the 65th Mayor of Toronto in 2014 and re-elected in 2018, Mayor Tory is making the city more livable, affordable and functional. Under his leadership, Toronto has attracted jobs and investments and emerged as an undisputed center of innovation and opportunity to the world stage. With this, I would welcome Mayor John Tory to the stage.
Well, Salma, thank you, and I'm very pleased to be here with the Minister, of course, Ahmed Hussen, and with Salma Zahid and also John McKay, the MPs, and of course my colleagues who you'll hear from, Deputy Mayor Anna Bailão and Councillor Crawford. Anna has been a leader in all aspects of housing across the City of Toronto, including in Scarborough, and Gary has helped this project to be better and has helped it to be more responsive to some of the needs of the overall community, and I thank them both for the role that they've played in making today possible. You know, it's great to be here in this particular part of the city, but this would be a great thing going on anywhere in the city. This is a very significant milestone in the development of rapid housing, as the Minister said. We simply had to come up with ways in which we could produce affordable housing and supportive housing faster. Because oftentimes, even when you have a piece of land the city has like this one, it can be the case that it takes 2 or 3 years for it actually to get built and for people to live in it. This project is moving fast because it has to move fast, because the need for affordable and supportive housing is urgent. We actually can see that the modules here, and I went to see them being built at the plant in Grimsby, Ontario, are being hoisted into place, and and they actually have the furnishings right inside them, so it's actually a matter then of hooking them up to the plumbing and to the electricity and so on, and they can have people living in them, which they will, in the month of December of this year. And that is something you can call rapid housing. From an idea that we talked about at the City Council and approved in the spring of this year to people living here before Christmas. This is part of our plan, a much broader plan, but this is an important part of our plan to move forward with creating new affordable and supportive housing options for residents across this city with unprecedented speed, because it's required now. This will see, ultimately, this particular pilot project for modular housing, one element of the rapid housing initiative for the city, will see us build 250 of these modular homes on city-owned lands, including this parcel here at 11 Macy. The homes will be delivered in 2 phases. Today's event is significant because this project at 11 Macy is part of the City of Toronto's first modular supportive housing project. This is one of 2 sites that make up Phase 1, which will deliver 100 units of housing ready for occupancy by the end of the year. That will mean the elapsed time from the approval of the site, the purchase of the modular units, and the plans will in total be a few months, not a few years. In about a month, this site here will be open to 56 individuals who will have a new place to call home. And that is something that's important. It doesn't sound like a big number, but if we create these homes 56 or 100 or 250 at a time, it is going to make a big difference to the thousands of people who are underhoused in our city. The building will include common rooms, a dining room, program space, shared facilities such as laundry on the ground floor, administrative offices for the nonprofit operator, and that is a very important fact to note. The operation and management of this modular housing development will be turned over to an expert nonprofit housing organization. Phase 2, coming along very shortly in 2021, will see an additional 150 homes built and ready for occupancy in 2021, not some year down the road, in 2021. What you see down behind me here that came down from the crane earlier on is extremely high quality housing built here in Ontario by Canadians, and it is the fact that these units are delivered already furnished. The beds and things like that are inside the units when they're delivered. The building will be 3 stories tall, and it is quite literally, as you can see, being assembled on site. And this just isn't a temporary home for people to call home and to live in. These are homes for people to grow in and to live comfortably and to become a part of this neighborhood. And I see some of the neighbors are out, attending our event today, and I just know that these people are going to feel welcome in this neighborhood and that they in turn are going to be good neighbors. We're going to be good neighbors because that's something that's very important to us. This type of progress and innovation is needed in the City of Toronto, but we know that we can't do it alone. It really does require partnership. It requires a partnership of the kind I mentioned with the nonprofit organization that will run this project. But I'm also very, very pleased to be here today with Ahmed Hussen, a minister who has been a good partner for the City of Toronto. And I will say that the federal government, represented as well by these two MPs, has also been a good partner for the City of Toronto on transit, on housing. The full capital cost for this phase 1 is $20.9 million. The city is covering $12.65 million of that, plus the contribution of the land. But the Government of Canada is also chipping in here through the CMHC and has committed $8.25 million in grants and recoverable loans. So I want to say thank you to the Prime Minister, to the Minister, to the MPs for their commitment to our city and for the creation of much needed affordable and supportive housing in the City of Toronto. I want to say one thing before I finish today, and that is that I believe very strongly that the key to our relative success in dealing with COVID-19 in this city and in this country has been the virtual absence to date of partisan rancor and, in fact, the very excellent cooperation that has existed between and among all of the governments, and I include in that the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, and the City of Toronto. This government, the Government of Canada, has been a good, responsive, and responsible partner for Toronto, whether it's on help for restaurants and small businesses, wage subsidies, or rapid housing. We will be making a grave mistake if we diminish our efforts to fight against COVID-19 and at the same time allow there to emerge a division and conflict in our leadership ranks. This would be a big mistake for Toronto and for Canada. This is like wartime. The situation we're in now is like wartime. And yes, accountability is important, but there's a way to do that which is constructive and which has the public see what they have a right to see. Leaders working together to keep people healthy and to bring this nightmare to an end, but to do it in a manner that is accountable. That's the Canadian way. It's been working so far. We shouldn't change it now. We've seen elsewhere it doesn't work. And in fact, it's counterproductive. And I think that while we haven't done things perfectly here, we've done relatively well, and that's the work that I think we want to keep up together. So let's keep moving forward together. Thank you again to the government for their help with this, and thank you to my colleagues for their help as well. They've been instrumental in making this a reality today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Tory, and thank you for the Team Canada approach to fight this pandemic we are all going through. Now, I would like to welcome Deputy Mayor Anna Bailão. Deputy Mayor Anna Bailão serves as City Councillor for Ward 9, Devonport. She has been a member of Toronto City Council since 2010 and was re-elected in 2018 with the support of well over 80% of the residents of her community, the largest margin of victory for any councillor in the City of Toronto. Thanks a lot for all the work which you do on behalf of all Torontonians on the housing file. With that, I would welcome Deputy Mayor Anna Bailão.
Thank you. I do have some notes in here, but I got inspired by a little bit of the background on the construction that we're giving you to give you a little bit of the background on how we came to today. So back in December of 2010, the City of Toronto approved a 10-year housing plan that called for the construction of 1,000 modular units over 10 years. COVID hits, and I think a couple weeks after the city shuts down, I get a call from Mayor Tory and said, okay, let's talk housing. Let's bring our leaders inside City Hall and let's talk about housing. The pressure is greater than ever. We can see it in our shelter system. We know that we have 8,000 people every night sleeping in our shelters or outside. We know that the pressure for affordable housing is going to be greater than ever with people losing jobs. We need to look at our housing plan and really understand and look at ways to assist these people during the pandemic. So here we are in a meeting with a few projects that we have on the go, actions, and by this time we're already leasing hotels, and the mayor points to modular housing. This what is this? And we tell him all about it, and we tell him how long it needs to take. And he challenges the entire team at City Hall to make sure that we have some projects before the end of the year. The need is greater. We need to act fast. We need to show Torontonians that we can mobilize and that we can come together and support our most vulnerable. So thank you, Mayor Tory. I hope you were proud of the challenge that you threw at us because here we are. And I want to also take this opportunity to thank the incredible team at City Hall. We've put together an interdivisional team that has come together from planning to buildings to create TO, housing secretariat, to really bring these two sites to fruition fast. And as soon as we started working on this, we started working on the math and said, okay, we need to approach our partners. And that's where Minister Hussen comes in and CMHC. We have secured funding for the first phase. We have secured funding for phase 2. So Minister, thank you. We could have not have done it without you, and we truly appreciate your support and your partnerships. This is what can happen when governments work together. Rapid responses with long-lasting results and solutions for the issues that we have in our city and in our country. We will continue to approach our provincial government because we need to ensure that these supportive houses come with the healthcare services that we have. We do have nonprofit organizations that will provide the support services for phase 1. We will continue to have the conversations with our partners at the province to continue to support in phases 2 and phases 3. But at this point, I really want to thank our mayor, our staff. I want to thank the communities that worked with us to ensure that these projects are a success, that have advised us, that work with us to ensure that when the new residents, and in many cases the residents that already live in our community but don't have a place to call home, that they're welcomed and they're well integrated into our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Now I would like to welcome Gary Crawford, the Councillor for Scarborough Southwest, and a strong voice for people of Scarborough Southwest at the City Hall. Gary Crawford is currently serving his 3rd term as Toronto City Council for the newly expanded Ward 20. He is recognized as a respected leader and conscious builder by his council colleagues. He has been appointed by Council for 2nd term as Budget Chair and as member of Mayor's Executive Committee. He also serves on the Civic Appointments Committee, Special Committee on Governance, Striking Committee, Toronto Arts Council, and Scarborough Community Council. He is also the Mayor's Designate and Vice Chair of the new Toronto Live Board of Directors. I welcome Gary Crawford to the
Thank you very much, Selma, and thank you for coming out today. As I was, and we were all looking at behind us when they were putting up the modular unit, I was sort of thinking I'm going to have to go home after this and dig out an old Lego box and start building some stuff because I found it quite fascinating how quickly and easily and they can put these modular units in. Again, thank you, Selma, for coming out today. It's always nice to see you. And Honourable Ahmed Hussen, Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, and Minister responsible for Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, thank you coming out. And of course, John McKay. Always nice to see you, John, coming out. And I want to give a great thanks to Mayor John Tory, Deputy Mayor Bailão, who are joining us here today. And as Anna said, and I want to give her credit too, between her and Mayor Tory, recognize the importance of affordable housing in the city and really sitting down at these tables that we all talk about the issues that we're facing, especially COVID. We have these conversations as decision makers, and the fact that the two of them are really recognizing the importance of affordable housing in the city and are acting very quickly. I just want to give thanks to them and the work that they're doing. And I'd also be remiss to acknowledge the residents in this community who are accepting and working with all of us to ensure that there will be a home for the 50-plus new residents that will be coming into Ward 20 Scarborough Southwest, and the work that we have to do to ensure that this is a neighborhood. All the residents that are here today and around us have decided to live in this community because they love this community, and there's reasons why they stay here. And I think that's a reason why we actually have to look at the new residents that will be coming in and recognize and support them as new community members. And the conversations that we have been having, of course, with our 41 Division and our community members have played a vital role, and I think will play a vital role in the success of what this modular housing initiative will be like in Scarborough Southwest and, of course, all around the city. This is the first, and we have one in Anna's ward, which will be the second. They will be a model for many, many more across the city. We know that we have gotten it right in this community, and we are working incredibly hard with them, so I want to thank them on that. And again, these are our neighbors. These are the people who we have to recognize as neighbors, especially in the time of need of COVID. And I acknowledge that, and I welcome them when they'll be coming here in the next couple of months. And all the work that all staff have done has been incredible. So again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and thank the community for participating in this wonderful event. Thank you. I think we're doing questions. Mr. Mayor?
Who has questions for who? For me? Okay. I understand that restaurants are having a terrible time right now, especially those that don't have any opportunity for outdoor seating. We are advocating strongly to the Government of Canada and they're being very responsive to looking at ways in which they can improve and modify their programs to include more people. We are making plans to have arrangements in place that the restaurants will be able to rely on, hopefully in a more stable manner when the 28-day period is over. And we're fighting hard to provide other options for them, including some of the winter outdoor dining options, although I think people should take note that it's not going to be every kind of enclosure, every kind of tent, every kind of bubble that will be allowed, because you can't go about creating what amounts to other kinds of indoor space and then have it as safe and healthy as we need for people to be. So we are fighting hard for them. As the Premier said, he said it a number of times and so have I. The decision to accept the advice we were given by the best medical experts we could possibly have in this province, in this city, and in this country, to actually close down some businesses, even for a short period of time, was agonizing. It was terrible, and you realize the terrible impact it's going to have on people. But I am comforted, I guess, in taking part in those kinds of decisions by the fact that every global city in the world, almost without exception, has done the same thing, because they believe, based on the advice of their own experts, that it is going to make a positive contribution to reducing the spread of COVID-19. And that, in the end, is what we're trying to do, because if we don't, then we will have a much longer and much more, much deeper shutdown. And I think people don't want the schools closed again. They don't want the child cares closed. They don't want the long-term care filled with people who are sick or dying of COVID-19. So that's what we're setting out to try and stop. And you have to have faith in the experts, and I do. And we're going to fight hard for the restaurants in the meantime to make life better for them, because I realize they're in very deep on this. Well, 200 of the new contact tracers hired by the province were to come to the City of Toronto, and they're in the process of just beginning to come. It takes time to train them, and that training began in earnest around mid-October, and so the first of them should be coming very soon. But in the meantime, given the high numbers of case counts, the City of Toronto Public Health had to prioritize their contact tracing. Now, I will say 92% of people who test positive have a phone call within 24 hours from Public Health to follow up and to give them some guidance on what to do. But the idea of every single contact being traced in the way that we were doing it before is not going to be possible until we get these extra people fully deployed and the numbers of the new incidents of infection come down. But I can tell you that is the goal. It is something that Toronto Health will try and do as soon as possible. But in the meantime, I think they're doing an excellent job reaching out to people, helping them to contact others, and making sure that we join them in the battle to stop the spread of the virus beyond themselves. What's the name of the nonprofit organization? Okay, go ahead.
It's actually two organizations, the Neighborhood Group and CODA. It's nonprofits. Decades of experience. Yep. Yeah. So I'll be able to share their website with you, and there's been meetings. They'll and their phone number, and you can definitely contact them. But there's two nonprofits. One will be dealing with property management, the other one with all the supportive services. Everything. These will have, people will sign a lease. These tenants will have to sign a lease. Absolutely. It's based on their income.
I should say to you, sir, that we've recognized the fact government is not good at all things, and that is why we're turning to these nonprofit organizations that are expert, and we're doing that increasingly, including with Toronto Community Housing, just because they bring a very deep level of expertise to these kinds of things. That's all they do, and I think it's going to produce a better result for Toronto Community Housing, for projects like this, and for neighborhoods across the city. Any other questions for today? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have been living in this area for almost 15 years. I live in 757 Victoria Park, and this area is already crowded. In the morning, there's lots of car here coming in, parking is jam everything. New build one in Victoria Park subway is coming in. New building another one is here, and the crime is going up in this area. So how do you guarantee homeless people coming in, 56 families? How do you guarantee us as when we turn it?
So how we guarantee that, first of all, we have our wonderful police officers from 41 Division and the community group that works really hard in this particular community. There's two of them that are in this community almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working with the community to ensure safety, to ensure everybody is getting along. So they'll be working, and they'll continue to be doing that. We'll be working very closely with the community. We've set up a community liaison committee with community members. These are people who live in the community to work together as a community, as neighbors, to ensure the safety and all that. And we recognize that there are more people moving into this community. And I think there are more people moving into every community across the city of Toronto. That is just part of a large urban city that is growing. But it's the work that we're doing at the local level with the neighbors, with the community members, that I think you'll find the ultimate success on. It's working with partnerships with all of these people. And again, even at 757, you were mentioning sitting down with the Ratepayers Association there, and that. So which I've done. We've sat down with them and talked about and had conversations about the challenges in the community, whether or not there's a modular home unit coming in here, what are the challenges and what we can do to make this community better, and bringing the resources and the people and the initiatives together to ensure that this is a workable, functioning community. So that's the work we're doing, and it's ongoing. This is not something that we do just for a few months as we're building this. We will continue to do that. We'll continue to work with the community, such as yourselves, to ensure that this is the reason why we are all living here.
This is the poorest area in whole Toronto. And this area, as I said again, I have lived a long time. Is it 24-hour police? I don't see 24-hour police here. I live in this area. So I don't know who's police is 24 hours. And we are really scared for this area. Our kids are growing up here. I don't know how much guarantee I can get it from.
So I suggest afterwards, the representatives from there's a sergeant just at the back there. We can talk about how they are involved in the community, and you may not see them, but they are actually around. But again, it's working with you, working with the community. I think that's a vital component of ensuring the success, of this community and other communities around the city. So thank you.
I'd like to say one more thing, Gary.
Sure.
Sir, I'd just like to say one more thing, which is that we often hear associated homeless people with bad behavior. Homeless people are homeless. They're not badly behaved. They're not criminals. They're homeless. And when you go to the shelters, as I've done, and I'm sure my colleagues have all done, and you have a chance to talk with these people, as I do every time I go, you find out that they've been through a job loss, they've been through a depression, they've been through a family breakup, and they've ended up in these circumstances where they're homeless. And you also discover that it can happen to almost anybody. And so we have accepted, and in partnership with the Government of Canada and the Government of Ontario, the responsibility we have to make sure that we look after and provide for those people while they're in their hour of greatest need. And it becomes particularly acute in a time like COVID. And we'll do that, and we'll do it responsibly. We'll do it in partnership with the nonprofit agencies. But there is nothing more important for us to do than to accept this responsibility, which we do, to make sure that we provide for people who are homeless. They're good people, and they just need to be nurtured and supported. And I'm sure that that will make a big contribution to them getting back on their feet, which we all hope they do. So thank you very much, and if there's no other questions, thank you for coming out today, and thank you again to the ministers and MPs, and I presume we're going to do some photos, are we? Okay.